Let's dive deeper into customer interaction management. If you haven't watched part one, you can go here and watch it now. But if you did, you know by now that customer interaction management is essential to your business. So let's take a look at each type of interaction and how to make it work for you. First, we have phones. Now, you may think that phone interactions are a thing of the past, but a study by Zendesk showed that 56% of people, that's more than half the customers, prefer to resolve complex and urgent issues over the phone. It is by far the most preferred method of communication. Now, this is because it's the fastest way to get a result. Phone communications are also easier. Think about it. Explaining a situation by email requires writing novels back and forth, and then there's the waiting for the replies. But a phone call with a live agent may clarify the same situation in 5 minutes or less. This is important because customers will often not do business with an organization that makes it hard to contact them when they have an urgent or important issue. So if you can, make sure that your organization is available by phone. Customers love the feeling of having an urgent issue, picking up the phone, and solving it. Conversely, they hate having to run around in circles and wait for emails. In order to make this happen, you can use a free solution like GoDataHub, link in the description. Make sure you take clear notes on the jobs and tasks for that customer and have meticulous communication notes as well. This will help you sound like you're on top of the situation when the client calls in. But what would really take it over the top is filling out the documentation section. This section should have all the do's and don'ts of handling different customer interactions. It should also contain explanations for your internal processes. This comes in very handy. Say if you're running a company where the person on the phone doesn't deal with the shipping. Well, they can still brush up on your shipping protocols when they talk to the client so they don't sound clueless. Sounding clueless is the worst thing you can do. It will ruin your company's reputation. So make sure your GoDataHub doc section is properly filled out. We'll discuss in more detail how you should set up your documentation in a future video. But for now, understand that the more complete your documentation section is, the better you or your agent will sound on the phone. Another important thing about your phone customer interactions is your tone. Think back to when you called a company only to talk to a person that sounded like they didn't really want to be there. It's horrible. The person on the phones is the face of your company. If they sound bored, upset, or like they're just going through the motions, they will make your company look bad. A future video will address the proper phone work and how you should deal with clients, from those that are happy to those that are angry. Now let's move on to email. Email is usually the preferred medium of contact when the issue isn't really burning. A study by Salesforce showed that 62% of customers prefer email as long as the subject is not urgent. Email is a great medium for promotions. Well, not too many clients appreciate a phone call to tell them about some new sale or discount you have going. But an email, as long as it's tastefully done, can be very well received. If the customer reached out for a customer service issue, then it may be that the particular problem they want to solve is not that urgent. But that doesn't mean that emails should be put on the back burner and not answered in time. Always keep a copy in the GoDataHub communication section of what was sent out to the client and what was received. Most problems are problems of communication, and keeping a meticulous log in GoDataHub allows you to pull up a full history of all interactions with that client and sort it by date, the person in the office that communicated with them, and much more. For example, if Dave from Apex Consulting calls in and says they spoke to Mary for a proposal, but they didn't get it yet, we can quickly pull up all the communications with Apex, filter it by Mary, so we can only see the communications between Mary from our office and Apex Consulting. This allows us to see the proposal was sent out on May 5th with USPS as per their request, and it's still in transit. We now fill out another interaction record for Apex, so the next person from our company that will deal with them knows the situation exactly. We can even put in the full content of the email into the record. Now let's move on to social media. It's becoming more and more important nowadays. A strong social media presence can help your customer interactions by channeling them. Now, what I mean by that is that social media is a place where you can build bonds with your customers and also inform them or market to them. Here are a few tips for creating great social media accounts. One, make sure your social media resembles your website. Now, the last thing you want is to have a social media presence that looks totally different than your website. By making sure that your banner and graphics are the same, you look more trustworthy and coherent. You don't want a potential client going on your social media and then being directed to your site that looks totally different in tone, message, or style. It's almost like the client took a wrong turn and ended up on a different website. Two, it's a good idea to log and keep track of messages. Also, plan ahead. You can use GoDataHub to open up a job under which you can list all the communications that went out. This can help you see patterns and create strategies. It also helps with the next point. Three, have multiple social media channels. You may be fond of Facebook, but you should probably be on Twitter, X, or Instagram. Look at all the social media channels and try to be on as many major platforms that fit your brand as you can. This brings up our next point. Four, repurpose content. It's very hard to create individual materials for all the channels. So have a strategy where you can repurpose your material. This is what the big boys do, and you should do the same. But all this is pointless without the next tip. Five, engage your audience. Nothing is worse than putting out material for people to engage with, but you don't take the time to engage with those people. Here are just a few benefits of engaging your audience: finding out problems with your product or service, getting feedback, finding new ideas for making money. I mean, yes, really, some of the best ideas came from smart business owners listening closely to what the people are saying and finding out patterns that they can take advantage of. Your next product or service may be a result of listening closely to your audience. Social media is especially good at giving you a window into what people think. Next up is texting or SMS messaging. This can be a great asset if used properly. A study by Salesforce showed that 64% of customers appreciate text messages with updates on their service or product. Now, we're not talking here about promotions, but shipping updates or updates on the status of a job. Imagine getting a text that your shipped product is out for delivery. Now, this is very valuable information. A text message is a convenient way to deliver important information fast as compared to email, but still not as intrusive as a phone call. When it comes to marketing, though, tread carefully. Not many people love being spammed with dozens of 20% off or sale today only. If you're going to use texting for promotions, then make sure you follow these two rules. One, text only important marketing messages, the ones that are really important. They should be very few and far between. If you have a sale every single day, then it's just not really a sale. That's just spamming. Two, make sure that the offer is pertinent to your customer. For example, if you sell clothing and toys and your customer only purchases clothing from you, then sending them a text about 50% off all toys is pointless and is bound to irritate them. Now, on to the next method of customer interactions, which is video calls. This is a new one that has become more popular in the past few years. It involves an agent from your company and the customer speaking via a video chat system like Zoom. These kinds of interactions are great for prospecting clients. Your customer can ask questions and get information. But what takes it over the top, as compared to just phone conversations, is the fact that you're speaking face to face. You know the old saying that it's just another faceless company? Well, with video calls, you're certainly putting a face on your company. This can be great, but do remember to fill up the documentation section in GoDataHub with all the necessary information, because the last thing you want to do is for the customer to associate a confused or clueless face with your company. Video chatting is getting especially popular for higher stake transactions. A study by McKinsey found that 38% of customers prefer a video call when they're dealing with more complex matters that have important consequences. I mean, it makes sense. Would you invest $10,000 in a venture based only on emails and a phone call? Probably not. As humans, we're conditioned to want to see the face of the person that's on the other end. It makes for a better connection. Last but certainly not least, we have an in-office or in-person visit. Remember what we were saying about wanting to see a face for a high stakes transaction? Well, this is even better. In person, whether in your office or at the location of the customer, is a way of cementing trust and clarifying things the way nothing else can. For thousands of years, as humans, we had to meet in person to conduct any important business. Even with the advent of technology and video chat, there's nothing like an in person meeting. Okay, so some of you may be thinking, well, in my line of business, there are no in person interactions. That might very well be true, but if you have a big deal about to close, then you might want to explore this option. It can help in situations where nothing else works. Some industries are heavily dependent on face to face interactions, industries like healthcare or financial services. Those are some of the most used methods for customer interaction. The most important part is how you manage them. Always try to base your strategy on four things. One, the channel and how it works, from phone to email to text and more. Each one is different and it requires a different approach. Two, the message. Some messages will fit better on certain channels and not on others. For example, a long response to a customer question is better handled by email rather than texting. 3. Keep meticulous logs of all these messages. Use something like the free GoData Hub solution to keep track of all your interactions. Your next interaction with a client will be a culmination of all the previous interactions. You need to have a detailed history for communications and tasks. 4. Have documentation which helps your employees figure out complex problems. In a future video, we'll address how to build a documentation section that makes your customer interactions stand out in a positive way.